Hey guys, before we start the show, I just wanted to tell you about a really cool company that a friend of ours, Larry Ostrowski, and his wife, Oksana, have put together called Soul CBD. And Larry's the man behind BeWellBuzz.com and had the opportunity to meet him. And I just love to support what he's doing. And he's got a great company, like I said, called Soul CBD. And if you're unfamiliar, cannabis is the most powerful plant on the planet. So if you're looking to take your health to the next level, if you're looking to overcome any health challenges you might have, you might want to look into CBD oil. The Soul CBD oil that he's put together is incredibly powerful. I just cannot back it enough. According to studies, CBD helps to relieve pain and inflammation anywhere in the body. It has antipsychotic effects. It helps to reduce anxiety. People use it for cancer. I can't say it cures anything. It doesn't cure anything. Can't say that. That would be against the law, but people have used it against cancer. It helps to relieve nausea, and it may treat seizures and other neurological disorders, and it helps to lower the incidence of diabetes, and it also helps to promote cardiovascular health. And those are just 8 benefits among hundreds and hundreds of benefits of this powerful plant. So if you're interested in Soul CBD, you can check it out on this page. And we're also brought to you by this really cool machine called the Rapid Release Technology Pro 2. And it is the only machine, for those of you guys that know, I had a debilitating back injury in June of 2016 where for the entire month I could not even move. I couldn't move to get out of bed. It took an hour to get out of bed and to go to the office to do some work. I literally couldn't move. And after a week of debilitating pain, somebody finally came over, a practitioner, and used this Rapid Release technology on my back. In Rapid Release, it uses high vibrational technology and it helps to release trigger points in the back and anywhere in the body, actually. And so I use it all in many different ways. I use it after my workouts to restore my muscles, to break up lactic acid. I don't know if it's breaking up lactic acid, but I use it for that. I use it over all my organs. I use it on my face. If I have a headache, I use it on the back of my neck and on my head. I use it all over my body every single day. I would not want to live without this thing. It's awesome. Chiropractors are now using it, and it's being used all over the country, and it's an awesome piece of equipment to have in your healing arsenal in your home. So if you're interested in the Rapid Release Technology Pro 2 or the Soul CBD, just check both of them out on our page here, extremehealthradio.com/534, and they're both available in our store as well. Well, welcome everybody to another edition here of Extreme Health Radio. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Justin Stallman. I am the host of Extreme Health Radio. It's an honor to be here today on episode 534. I'm super pumped about this show. We have Alison Gannett on the show, and we're going to be talking about her journey through brain cancer, which is so... Gosh, what's the right word? Serendipitous, circuitous? I'm not sure what the right word is, but my wife's... Actually, if you listen to the show, her name is Kate, and you guys know Kate. But Kate's grandpa's second wife, who are both next-door neighbors to us, was just diagnosed with a brain cancer. If you get our newsletter, you probably found out about that recently. But it's so interesting that we have Alison on the show, which we're just talking about that. And we'll talk about her journey through brain cancer, which is quite amazing. Before I introduce her, though, let me let you know about a couple upcoming shows. We've got Dr. Sherry Edwards coming up, and we're going to be talking about breaking the sound barriers of disease. So that would be really interesting. We've had so many people ask about having her on the show, as well as Dr. Cass Ingram, his new book called The Tumor Cure. Interesting he uses the word cure. I'm not sure if we're able to use the word cure these days. We'll have to talk with Dr. Ingram about that. And then we have Bryant Myers, a good friend of ours who's been on the show multiple times. We love having him on. He's a scientist, and he'll be talking about PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, and the elements of energy medicine. So that will be really cool stuff. So if you haven't signed up to our show, you want to keep up to date with everything we have going on. We do 2 shows a week. The best thing to do would be to sign up to our newsletter. We email just twice a week on Mondays and Fridays, let you know what's going on and all the cool stuff going on in this world that we're in, this crazy, wacky world. So if you want to do that, you can go to our website, extremehealthradio.com, sign up. There'll be links everywhere to join the newsletter, and that way you can stay up to date with everything we have going on. And today we have Alison Gannett on the show, and this is going to be fascinating because I originally found out about Alison. I'm not sure. I think it was originally through Facebook or something, but I got locked on to maybe perhaps one of her videos that was on the Lecanto website, and I watched her story about brain cancer, and she mentioned having polycystic ovarian disease on there, as well as thyroiditis and Hashimoto's and breast fibroids and all this kind of crazy stuff. And in 2013, she found a baseball-sized malignant cancerous deadly brain tumor in her head. So we're going to be talking about her journey through all of that. Let me go ahead and turn her microphone up here really quickly. Alison, can you hear me?
I can.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate this.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. I mean, there's a lot of cancer out there in our midst, and I think, I've learned a lot in the last 4 years. We're actually coming up to my anniversary when we found that giant tumor in my head.
Really? So it'll be 4 years since discovering it?
Exactly.
Wow. Whereabouts are you located?
I'm in the middle of nowhere. We run an organic farm in Paonia, Colorado.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I was thinking you're down in South America or Central America or something, but you're in Colorado.
Well, I do love to surf a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at your bio, and man, you have so many interesting, cool things. You you teach people how to jump off mountains, and world champion extreme free skier and pro mountain bike rider. That's pretty fun pursuits.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a pretty interesting life. I think, ironically, my career as a professional athlete probably contributed quite heavily to the root causes of my cancer, but I think it also gave me an incredible amount of fearlessness, which has been essential to me choosing kind of a futuristic path to
now, I have to ask you,
conquer my cancer.
We were talking before the show, and I was laughing, and we're just kind of joking around, but it is a very serious subject. On your email signature, you have your phone number, and it says toxic cell next to it. And I want to get into that because before we started recording, you mentioned how that played a role in your cancer. But how do you think that your extreme lifestyle in terms of extreme sports played a role in the cancer, do you think?
Well, there is too little exercise is inflammatory, and too much exercise is inflammatory.
Okay.
So I fell into the couch potato in the first part of my life, and then I was an adult onset athlete, and then became kind of addicted to extreme sports. I was a kind of a fat, dorky kid, and then all of a sudden I found that I was good at all this other stuff. I used, sports to control my weight, and I think I also had a lot of emotional trauma as a child growing up, and I kind of, got off on the adrenaline rush of being really good at something. And
right.
So I think a lot of times for me, exercise was a way to avoid pain and weight gain, and it was my outlet for stress, but what I didn't realize is I was actually causing stress by doing it that way. Yeah,
it's interesting because I knew a guy who, I mean, you can't really say that, it's so challenging to say what exactly is causing a cancer for someone because it's different for everybody, but it is interesting. I've known a few people, and particularly a guy recently who died a few years back, one of our family friends who was I think he was one of these extreme like marathoner guys, like he'd run the 50 miles and that kind of stuff, or 200-mile marathons.
Ultra running.
Yeah, ultra running. And, it's interesting. Do you think there's a lactic acid component to all that?
Well, lactic acid converts to sugar. So it is no surprise, you've got all this lactic acid converting to sugar, and then you're out there competing and you're pounding all these sugary drinks and gels and bars. And, it is, cancer, I believe, and a lot of researchers believe that it is a metabolic disease. And so, if you're sitting there feeding it sugar, it's cancer cells. If you put them in a petri dish, they are metabolically inflexible. they can only feed on glucose and fructose. And, if you give them fat or some alternative type of fuel that they can't metabolize, they die, but they just love, fruit and sugar and carbs.
Right.
And, that's what I was giving it, fruit, sugar, carbs, and then lactic acid converting to sugar.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe, now that I've become a cancer coach, you really can't put a single finger on what gives people cancer, which is why I think researchers are so confounded, is they keep trying to find one thing.
Right.
And, what my doctor does, Dr. Nasha Winters, and Optimal Terrain Consulting, and then, she taught me through my own journey, and then I was so amazed that I didn't die, that I went back to school and studied with her and became a cancer coach. And, now it's just amazing to me, because when I look at what she taught me, which is how to look at people's blood chemistry and their DNA,
mm-hmm.
You can see the stress, the hormones, the viruses, the sugar metabolism, emotions even. You can see inflammation, the microbiome status, immune system, vitamin D3, their thyroid, the HPA axis, mitochondria, DNA, blood circulation, oxidation, food sensitivities, and then, all the toxins that are in our food, water, and air.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at all that and like kind of the big picture, you can see, what is driving that person's situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think is so cool about the future of cancer, is getting into this
mm-hmm.
really deep, personalized medicine.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. What was the name of that doctor? Dr. Nasha Winters, you said?
Yeah, and she just came out with a book, and I'm going to plug it because she saved my life.
Yeah.
And it's called The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. And she goes over all those things in each chapter, and digs in of like what's amazing to me is to just see that I thought I was, really healthy athlete. I was an organic farmer, and, I was kicking butt, doing really well with my health, I thought. And then all of a sudden I've got this cancer that is killing me. And,
wow.
It made me realize that I think cancer was the biggest gift ever given to me, because I never knew that all those things were screwed up inside me.
Yeah.
And I think, now I track my labs. I have tracked them every 30 days for 4 years.
Now, you said you had like 50 or 60 blood tests that you take monthly, right?
Monthly, yep.
Whoa. And how do you do all those? Through what? Do you do it through multiple outlets?
No, I can just go into my local blood draw and get them done,
Wow.
They're just like, we're looking at standard labs like CBC, CMP, and inflammation, vitamin D, some growth hormone stuff, a lot of inflammation markers, because cancer loves inflammation. What disease doesn't love inflammation?
I know, right?
But simple things like vitamin D3 and thyroid, and it's not rocket science really, but it's the reading of those labs that Dr. Nasha has taught me is so key.
Oh, right, yeah, because you have to.
She's looking for like the smoldering embers.
I see.
Not like the house being on fire, because most of my clients and her clients say, hey, my labs are all in range.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, well, did you know, first of all, that in range, when you get your labs back, means that it's actually in range for the average of the folks in your state for that number. So let's say, half the people in Colorado have diabetes, I'm just making something up.
Right,
and you come out in range, then it could mean that you have diabetes, but you're still in range.
Yeah, you're comparing yourself to a sick normal, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I think that's what's so key.
Okay. Wow, so fascinating. So in range, that's not necessarily, so she's telling you, or she's showing people or you or whatever, to look at deeper at some of these numbers, and not necessarily you want to be in range, but you want other things to show on that, right?
Yeah, she makes really strict ranges for everything, your heart disease marker, CRP, or HbA1c, your marker for blood sugar over time, she wants us all the way below 5.0. Liver enzymes, we're looking at getting them all the way down to 20. That means what we're looking at, and that's the name of her business, Optimal Terrain Consulting. And
Right.
she thinks the body is like terrain, and it's like me here in my garden. If you cultivate the soil, then the plants are going to grow and the weeds are going to go to the wayside and the pests are going to go to the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of think of cultivating the body into optimal levels versus just getting by.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So in terms of the test, how much does it cost to test for those 50 or 60 things that you do every month? Is it pretty expensive or is it pretty nominal?
It's covered by most people's insurance.
Wow.
So for me, I've never paid a penny. If people don't have insurance, or the hardest part is getting like kind of your regular doctor to buy into looking at these tests proactively.
Yeah, that's the tricky part, right?
That's the hard part. But we have a new thing like walkinlabs.com, and I think there's a couple other Quest diagnostics. You can actually order labs on your own now online.
There's another one too. It might be the same one. Anylabtestnow.com is another one that does that.
I haven't learned something new every day.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I've never heard of walkinlabs.com, so we'll make a note of that.
I haven't found a better price than Walk-In Labs.
Okay.
But that is fantastic, and it really helps. The biggest gift, I say, was cancer, because I think now as a cancer health coach, I've been able to, drag some of my family members. Some of them are very excited to be proactive about preventing cancer. Mm-hmm. We go in and look at those labs, and if their doctor's not willing to be helpful, we just go to the walkinlab.com, drag and drop all the labs into the cart, and then go to your local blood draw. And it was really interesting because my husband, he turned out to have a genetic condition that would have killed him, and he found it at 42 when we were being proactive after I got sick. Most people with that genetic condition, a lot of times they will die in their mid-50s.
Wow, and you found that early.
Well, just barely by the hair of a... just barely, but, It's been miraculous. I mean, I don't think anybody of my friends and family, when we've looked at their blood work, no one really comes back and it's like, oh, this looks amazing. Everybody just has, it's opportunities for improvement. I don't want to look at it in a negative way.
Right. See, that's one of the things that I think sometimes I've talked to people like other listeners of the show kind of thing, and they'll talk about how, they don't want to get tested for certain things because they're afraid of what they might find and this type of stuff. But I think, with this toxic world that we live in, and I'm always looking at okay, kind of more the athletic type, kind of how you are, where it's okay, let's stay on top of everything and let's see how we can get better and better and better instead of focusing on prevention is key, obviously, but you don't want to have that, always thinking that you have cancer, always thinking that you have this, going to WebMD and looking at all your symptoms and all this kind of crazy stuff. But it's good to get, tested just so and so you can always improve on things and kind of move towards something rather than being afraid and moving away or trying to prevent something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree completely, and I think that's what's so great that Dr. Nisha's book just came out, is that, people can read the different chapters on hormones and sugar and carbs and emotions and vitamin D3 and thyroid and kind of be given some guidelines for what optimal might be versus what is I'm just crawling by.
Wow. So in her book, does she have all the ranges that you're talking about?
She doesn't, because it's very personalized.
I see.
I don't think you want to give an optimal range for something without seeing the reference, because everything works together, right? So it's more about looking for patterns that are going to tell us that, someone's hormones are off. But it's not one indicator that's just okay, this should be this.
Do you think there's an indicator for sugar levels? Because a lot of people say that, it should be at a certain level. Fasting blood sugar in the morning needs to be, in the 60s or 70s or something like that. Does she give an optimal sort of general for things like sugar?
Well, I'll just give a general for what I strive for, because I think it's always easier for like a personalized story.
Uh-huh.
And, my fasting glucose in the morning is about 69. My HbA1c, which is blood sugar average over 3 months, is 5.04. So it's just around 5, which is very hard to get to if you've ever tried.
Mm-hmm.
Then my insulin is my fasting insulin, which I think is really key. A lot of people look at HbA1c and forget to look at fasting insulin.
Yeah, insulin's the key, isn't that?
Key.
Yeah.
I mean, insulin is driving everything.
Insulin's more important, isn't it? Or probably just as important as knowing your sugar levels too, right? I mean, it's insulin.
Again, it's an reactive. Everything is working together. So. Mm-hmm. You see patterns, like if you see high cortisol, if you see high insulin, you see high HbA1c, you see high IGF-1, you see high fasting glucose, then hey, we've got a problem here, Houston.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fascinating. So, it kind of reminds me of that quote. I'm not sure if it was Tony Robbins or something, but, he always said, what gets measured gets managed. And it's so key, right? I mean, that's exactly
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so true, right?
And that's why I've always loved this approach, because for me, I'm a very science-based person, and I really, I used to be like vegan and vegetarian, and then I saw, and I think you did too, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was that way for 7 years, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too, and so, I thought I was doing great, and then I saw the numbers on my labs, and I learned how to read those labs. And in 30 days, I couldn't believe how different my labs were. When I first started, I would say I was kind of modified paleo.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 9 months, I was a completely different person. And then, when I went full ketogenic, things really, really, really changed, especially the polycystic ovarian disease and the Hashimoto's and the breast fibroids. It was really about bringing up those essential fatty acids that weren't high enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went therapeutic ketogenic, which I think is a whole nother animal. And
wow, what is that?
Well, I'm going to have to write a book about it.
It's too big, right?
In my mind, a lot of the stuff on the internet is more about ketogenic for athletics or for weight loss.
Uh-huh.
And therapeutic ketogenic for me is how do you get all the antioxidants super, super high. So how do you get your vegetable intake really, really high and really, really diverse, while also getting your fat levels to 85% of your total calories?
Yeah, that seems like that would be a really challenging thing to try to do.
Yeah, and I think that's why I became a health coach, because I specialize in ketogenic therapeutic diets. It's very hard to get there without some knowledge, and it's tricky. But cancer, you're not only suppressing what cancer is being fed, the carbs and the glucose and the fructose, but also too much protein is a problem because it converts through gluconeogenesis into sugar.
Yeah, protein.
Or the excess exercise, like the lactic acid converting into sugar, or your stress level is too high, and that converts into sugar.
Yeah, people don't realize that.
Insulin.
Yeah, the protein turns to sugar, or a lot of it does. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it. So generally in the therapeutic ketogenic, what I strive for is 85% of my diet from good fats, really varied fats. That's another key thing.
Okay.
And then 5% carbs, and I try to aim for about 9 cups of vegetables a day, but it's very hard to do that without going over your carb load. Basically, sugar and carbs are in everything, even kale. and then only 10% of really good quality proteins, and I think that's the difference also between therapeutic ketogenic diets and regular ketogenic diets, is things have to be local and organic. They have to be hormone-free. You know, if there are growth hormones in meat. Oh, are you still there?
Yeah, we're still here. They kind of cut out a little bit.
I had a weird noise.
Yeah.
So if you have growth hormones in conventionally raised meat and then you eat that steak, you know, that hormone that's in that steak is also going to be a growth factor for cancer. So it's very important, the quality of the food, as long as with the ratio.
So you said that you're doing about 10% protein right now?
Yeah.
10% protein. And
everybody's different, but that's kind of where we're shooting for.
That's interesting. Okay, so going back a little bit, I'm curious. Before the diagnosis, what were some of the symptoms? And going back into that story just a bit, what were some of the symptoms? And I read on your bio and watched that video. I think I'm not sure if you heard in the intro that I found out about you through the Lecanto company, and I saw that.
Yeah, I heard that. That's hilarious.
So cool. And yeah, I've never heard of you until then. And then I thought, wow, this is so cool. We have to have you on. So I'm curious, what was going on in your life, and how was that process of being diagnosed and then turning down the chemotherapy and the radiation and all of that?
Well, I was going crazy, but I was unaware of it, which is it's a thing called ahendonia, where you have this like complete lack of caring about things. Kind of imagine someone who's like uber depressed, and you know, they don't want to get up, they don't want to eat, they don't want to work. You know, that was kind of me, and you know, I'm a type A overachiever person, which, you know, one of the things has really had to change with me and my cancer is that has had to go away. But back then, all of a sudden I became really lackadaisical. I had a huge talk with Microsoft about achieving your goals and jumping off of cliffs and how to succeed, and I basically forgot to get on the plane.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, that's kind of a big deal, like talking for Microsoft and you miss the presentation. That was a kind of a thing that was tipping my husband off that things weren't quite right. And one day I was cooking bacon on the stove on high, and it was burning so badly that it had caught on fire and flames were like shooting to the ceiling. And I was just sitting there staring at the bacon, like kind of mesmerized by the flames. And
oh my gosh!
My husband walked in and was like, "Do you think this is a problem?" I'm like, "No, maybe." You know.
Yeah. Wow.
Right after that, he was like, "I don't care what anyone says. I'm taking her to the emergency room."
Wow, fascinating. So you went to the emergency room, and then they did a scan, and they said they discovered a baseball-sized tumor in your head. Yeah,
I mean, it basically was taking up, if you look at the picture, it actually looks like it took up about 3/4 of my brain.
Do you have the picture on your website?
I do.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah, go onto the Conquer Cancer page, and there's a picture of it. I think it's in a green box or something. I can't remember. Is that
AlisonGannett.com or the Conquer
it's AlisonGannett.com, yeah.
Okay, so...
And then just click on the Conquer Cancer tab, and there should be a picture there.
Oh, yeah.
But I can send you a picture, and you can post it on your...
Oh, my gosh, I see it. That is crazy.
Isn't it crazy?
So that was right above your left eye? Or your right eye?
My right eye, and they said if it had been on the other side, I would have died. And I think the reason that it was starting to affect me so badly is it was slow growing, probably over 20 years, and it had pushed over into the other hemisphere. And so I think when it pushed over into the other hemisphere is when I was having some physical problems, coordination, and then also the mental part. It didn't really affect me until it pushed over into the right side of my brain.
You know, it's so
left side of my brain, I'm sorry.
You know what's so bizarre about these things is that, you know, there's always a justification for something. Because I was going to ask you, you know, during that 20 years, if it typically, you know, if it took that long, Is it possible for you to have noticed different signs, but everything is justifiable, right? You could say, oh, well, I had a headache.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting older, I'm getting forgetful, blah, blah, blah.
But, man, so you think it was growing for 20 years?
Part of the things that Optimal Terrain taught me and Dr. Nasha was to go back and dig into the root causes of why it was happening. Mm-hmm. And, I just kind of traced back my health to, some really stupid things that I had done in my life. And it was a point in my career where I was about to win the world championships, and I was super, super, super sick from traveling and drinking and partying and training too much and eating poorly. And the doctor just said, oh, well, you can compete. Just take these antibiotics. And if this doesn't work, take another course of antibiotics. And so I think that moment, I actually took all those antibiotics. And then I collapsed at the finish line, and I basically had a 2-year episode of chronic fatigue that had started then, and I think I completely trashed my microbiome. I had just taken it. It was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Wow.
I already had poor hormones. I had too much stress. I was eating too much sugar. I had low levels of vitamin D. Looking back on the tests from back then, and my microbiome just got trashed, and I was living in a town with really toxic water at the time.
Wow.
So I think it was just like the perfect storm that kind of happened then.
And what year was this? How long ago was that?
That would have been 1996.
1996. And were you running a marathon, or was it like a triathlon or something, or what was that?
No, I was competing extreme skiing and also racing mountain biking, so I was just going.
Man, so you just collapsed after. I can't believe that you competed after taking antibiotics. That's crazy.
Oh my gosh, we do stupid things as professional athletes. We're getting paid to perform. Not competing is not an option.
Yeah, it's like not working, right? I mean, it's
like not working.
Yeah. Wow.
They're like, what? We're going to pay you $100,000 a year, and you're going to tell us you're sick for the World Championships? No way.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. They're going to remove those sponsors right away, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow, what a crazy thing. So you said that was around 96, you said, or 90? 97?
Yep.
Wow. So
and I think, my ill health went all the way back to childhood, and, I had a lot of ear infections, so a lot of antibiotic use as a child. Mm-hmm. That did me no favors. And
what's interesting is a lot of people equate, which is so bizarre in this world today, but they equate fitness with health. And I can't tell you, and I'm sure you've seen this being in the fitness industry as well as the health industry, is that, I like to work out, and I like to, lift weights and go on adventures and surf and all this kind of stuff. But anytime you hear about health, so many people equate health with fitness, and they're completely different things. I mean, they're not even the same thing at all. And I can't tell you how many people I know that are the most unhealthy people, but their bodies are just rock solid, Oh,
I totally agree. And my hardest clients now are like the person you described, like the ultra runner person, because there's a reason that us professional athletes, we're addicted to exercise. We're addicted to the endorphins, the way it feels. But it's also a stress management tool. It's also an emotional avoidance tool. Mm-hmm. There's so many reasons that I was addicted to exercise, and it was all not healthy. Mm-hmm. And I call it now chronic cardio, and somebody asked me the other day, how do you define chronic cardio? And I would say elevated heart rate for more than 12 minutes a day. And so now all I do, the only thing I can do to keep my 50 or 60 labs in check is to walk or ride my bike with the dogs every day. But I always keep my heart rate below 100 now.
So you don't do any sort of workouts that are extreme or weightlifting or cardiovascular? You kind of keep it minimum.
I keep it where my labs are happy, which is my doctor always says, exercise like Laura Ingalls Wilder would have on Little House on the Prairie. Mm-hmm. And luckily I'm a farmer, and so, I am active. I am moving every day.
That's hard work.
A lot. But chronic cardio and me do not get along.
I was listening to a podcast the other day with, I read this guy's book. You're probably familiar with him. He wrote the book called Ultra Marathon Man, Dean Karnazes, and he's a guy that ran. Yeah. I mean, for those that don't know who he is, he does stuff like he'll run 50 miles in all 50 states of the United States in 50 days. And he'll do that, and he'll run 200-mile marathons, and he'll run for 4 days straight, without stopping, and he'll eat literally, I remember reading his book, and he'll eat pizzas. He'll get a pizza delivered to himself, while he's running at 3 a.m. in the morning, in the middle of the night, and he'll just eat a pizza while he's running. And I mean, the guy is fascinating, and I love him, but sometimes I worry, I mean, gosh, talk about putting your body through so much stress. There's these people in Africa that do what they call persistence hunting, where they will they'll hunt, and they'll just outrun something because it's called persistence. So what they'll do is, and they'll just do it forever. And I just think, man, like the human body was not meant for that. It's crazy.
Well, it's interesting about hunting because I was thinking a lot about the whole paleo ancestry and hunting. And, when I went hunting this fall for an elk, it was 5 days of pushing. I never got my heart rate high, but I was exhausted.
Uh-huh.
No two ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Right.
But you shoot that elk, you process that elk, you freaking sit down and gorge on elk meat for like the next month, because that's what we would have done historically.
Right.
And Mark Staley Apple had an amazing study he put together he looks at CRP, high sensitivity C-reactive protein, which is a marker we look a lot for cancer, but also for heart disease.
Uh-huh.
And he looked at that CRP with every type of athletics that he could think of, every, Olympic, non-Olympic, extreme, not extreme. And he found elevated CRP in every single sport except for one. And the one sport was walking.
Really?
So I love that study. So,
yeah.
It's all about inflammation. And if you're one of those people with rare DNA and you can do all that stuff, your labs will tell if you can handle it or not.
Yeah, the labs won't lie, right?
The labs don't lie.
Yeah.
If the inflammation's there, you have to find out where it's coming from.
And like with you and most people and me and everybody, I mean, really, you can't feel sometimes the inflammation. You can feel stressed out and things like that, but you can't feel sometimes inflammation. It might feel good to do an exercise, but you could be radically inflamed,
That's exactly the point. And what I've really noticed with monitoring my labs every month is that there is zero correlation between how I feel and what my labs say.
Wow.
And that has been mind-blowing, that there isn't a correlation. And I think what it is that there's a delay in an event, whether it's poor eating or stress or you get some toxic exposures for your thyroid. It takes a while for that to manifest itself in your labs, and it takes a while to correct something that has happened in your labs. I had one really, really stressful event, and all my inflammation markers went up. This was about 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
They stayed high for 3 months from 1 day of stress.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I was going to ask you. So that's incredible.
So, yeah, I think stress, diet's been easy. The therapeutic ketogenic diet for me is easy. I've made it yummy. I think it really is about making it like the best food that you've ever eaten, or else what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
But, the managing stress, for me, the cortisol and the fasting insulin, which, I can have the most perfect diet ever, and if my stress goes up, my cortisol goes up, then my fasting insulin goes up, then my HbA1c goes up, and I'm feeding cancer even though I haven't eaten a drop of sugar or carbs in 4 years.
Isn't that crazy? That is so crazy, right?
It is crazy, and
wow.
But it's cool because it gives you so much control over how you're doing in your life. Like, I'm not going to let stress won't take over for me because I'll see it in my labs before it will manifest itself as feeding a tumor.
I see.
And I'm able to make those adjustments monthly based on new information. And, like, I just found out I had some weird labs 2 months ago, and so I asked Dr. Nasha, like, hey, what is this? This is so weird, you know. My triglycerides suddenly went from 50 to 90, which is unheard of if you're eating the way I'm eating.
Right, yeah.
And she said, you know, check your DNA for this mutation, and it's going to be in your raw data in your genetic code.
Uh-huh.
And so I looked for it. It's called ApoE variant 3.4, and lo and behold, I had it. And so it means I have an inability to process saturated fat like normal people.
Oh, wow.
So I had to change the types of types of fat that I was eating on my ketogenic diet based on my DNA.
Oh, my gosh. So why did it all of a sudden show up, do you think?
You know, I think my body was like on fire in the diagnosis, you know, and at first when I made such radical transformation from a vegan vegetarian to a, you know, therapeutic ketogenic diet with the high fat and the high veggies, that I went through an initial cleansing phase probably for 3.5 years, and that all of a sudden it kind of manifested itself. But I tell you, there's almost nothing I don't learn every month. And, you know, there could be a little thing like I went to New Zealand in February, and, you know, I was really diligent about my diet, but I bit into one hamburger, and it had a weird texture, so I thought, oh, this probably has wheat in it. Mm-hmm. And so then I asked them, I said, hey, I asked if you had any gluten in here, and you said no, and they were like, oops, sorry about that. And my thyroid, it took about 18 months to heal my thyroid when I first found out about it in 2013, and in one bite, my thyroid went from perfect all the way back to where it was.
Now, did you swallow that food, or did you not even ingest it?
Well, I swallowed it, and then I asked.
Oh, I see.
And
wow.
Dr. Nasha has always said, you know, one molecule of gluten for people with Hashimoto's thyroiditis or hypothyroid can set off a whole chain reaction, and I never really believed her until I saw it. And I saw it in my lab. So now I'm back to repairing my thyroid again.
Man, it's interesting you say that. I heard a story recently about a woman who had the same issue with gluten, really, really sensitive, super, super sensitive. And they were trying to nail down her diet and figure out what was going on. And they traced it all the way back to, you know, once a month she had communion at her church. And the cracker that she was eating had gluten in it, but that's, you know, so she never even thought about that. But
it's in everything, you know. It is really surprising, and it's pretty hard to get even just, you know, I was born without, the receptor for vitamin D3 in my DNA code.
Really?
And so, you know, it's very hard to even go out and get, like, a D3 supplement, you know, that doesn't have soy, wheat, gluten, corn, sugar, all that stuff in it. And yeah, something that you're taking is its tiny, tiny amount for, you know, people that have problems like I have. It's...
For the genetic test, did you do the 23andMe, or did you do something different?
So I did 23andMe, but then, you know, you basically don't find out a whole lot
they
from
can't tell you.
23andMe anymore. So what we do is we import it to geneticgenie.org. It's free. And so you do that, and basically you get a methylation report and a detox report. And then from there, you know, and that's what I say to people. You mentioned earlier, like, people that are afraid to find out, like, yeah, I was born with the genetic predisposition to have Alzheimer's, but my diet and lifestyle pull the trigger on that gene. You know, I have seen my own genes, like, be changed over the past 4 years. You know, there are methyl groups in your genes that can be taken on and put off. So you are born with a set blueprint, but does that mean that you're going to get cancer? Certainly not, because we are looking at, like, I have an inability to process estrogen in my DNA. I was born with that from both my mother and my father. So I have to be super careful about either foods that contain estrogen or eating out of plastic, whereas somebody who does not have that gene might be able to get away with, you know, drinking out of plastic water bottles. That's why, you know, we're all so different, and we have to look at that genetic code and the blood chemistry and figure out what's going on with people.
So you can take for free the results from 23andMe and import them into geneticgenie.org?
Yes, but it'll get, unless you know how to read that,
okay,
it's a bunch of mumbo jumbo.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I've heard.
People.
They're really challenging to read.
Well, that's what I do now is I take people's genetic genie report. Then I also take their raw data. And, you know, you want to look for, like, these little hidden things. Like, you know, say someone has elevated ferritin on their labs, then immediately I'm going to their DNA and looking to see if they have any of the genes that might cause elevated ferritin.
Now, did you learn all this from Dr. Winters?
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. How did you find her?
She's amazing. Like, if you're out there, Dr. Nasha, and she not only saved my life, but now I can help save other people's lives.
Maybe we'll reach out to her. She sounds like she'd be a great guest.
Oh, you should definitely. She's amazing.
Wow.
She sees patterns in people's labs and DNA that I dream of seeing someday.
Wow. So you work with people and going through and recommending which blood tests and going through it all with them. Well,
what I do, because I am only insured to be a ketogenic diet coach.
Okay.
So while I can read labs and DNA, technically I can only say, like, this is what I would recommend for diet and supplements based on what I see in your labs or your genetics. But you need to run all this by your doctor. And that's for the people that I'm working on to prevent cancer. Now, people with cancer, I actually require that they're either working with Dr. Nasha Winters at Optimal Terrain Consulting or Jeannie's also awesome at nutritionalsolutions.net. They need to have, like, a conductor for their cancering situation, because diet is just one of the zillion underlying root causes of that cancer. And so I can help with the diet and the lifestyle, but people need to have that kind of higher level of care. And then they also have to have care on the ground with hopefully a functional or integrative doctor that can help implement the report that Dr. Nasha would do for them.
So you're finding
it's like a 75-page plan. I'm 4 years into my journey. I'm still working on my own plan. You know, it's a lifetime of changes, and sure, change is hard, but I've got to say my life is a lot better now than it was before I had cancer. Oh,
man, what it takes you and the person you become on the other side. Now, how much of the tumor that was in your body or in your brain did they get out? Did they get out the whole thing?
You know, they think they got out most of the big one, like that they could see. But then after they sewed me all up and, 10 hours of life-threatening surgery, they come into the room and they say, oops, there was another tumor in there and we missed it. And, I actually think it's a blessing now, because every time I think of cheating, well, I don't even think of cheating, but, I think of Junior. That's who I call him in there. And
yeah, I know you gave him a name, right?
Yeah, and I think of Junior and, the other, an average person has 70 to 75 million cancer cells in their body at any given moment. And, they're all just waiting in there like little Pac-Man and see if you're going to feed them, sugar and inflammation and mineral vitamin imbalances. They're just waiting for those opportunities. So I don't want to give Junior any opportunities.
Yeah. No, that's great. So they removed, and then it was at that point that they wanted to follow up with chemo and radiation, wasn't it? Right after that.
It was, and luckily my surgery was so invasive that they said, hey, we can't do chemo or radiation for 6 months. We're going to send you home to recover.
Uh-huh.
And the investigative scientific person in me, I started researching my tumor. They never told me I had cancer. They never told me it was terminal, and they never told me it was malignant. And they just said, oh, go home. It looks good. The surgery was good. We have really, great hopes for this. And I go home and I get on the internet. It turns out people with my type of cancer generally live like 1 year with chemo and radiation.
Now, what's the label that they give? What type of cancer did they say that you had?
Oh, it's a really weird one. It's called a hemangiopericytoma.
Say that again?
Hemangiopericytoma.
Pericytoma.
Okay. The labels really aren't important. It's a cancer that loves to grow and spread, and you basically keep getting parts of your body cut out and toxified until you die. And so basically what I found out on the internet is I was going to die with every known conventional or, tested drug out there, or even the clinical trials, like the clinical trials that I looked into, like the death rate was like almost 100%.
Wow.
So, I realized it was pretty much a no-brainer for me because I knew that surgery, chemo, radiation, and my type of cancer was going to equal death no matter what. So
now at the time
I knew I wanted something different, and then just fate got me in the hands of Dr. Nasha, and she was like, oh, well, we'll find out why you got cancer, and once we know why you got cancer, we're going to fix all those things, and then there's no reason you shouldn't live a long, happy life.
Isn't that amazing how these people come into your life? I mean, it's just so crazy how you get connected up with the exact right person that you need and at the right moment, and it just all works out,
Yeah, it seems like a miracle because I was actually over at a neighbor's house harvesting kale because the cabbage moths had eaten all my kale. And she was the one who turned me on to Dr. Nasha. And it turned out when I got my DNA report done that I was born without the gene for metabolizing sulfur, which is in kale.
Right.
So I was sitting there eating kale and broccoli thinking that I was doing all these right things for my cancer, and it turns out I was killing myself.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going around now. People allergic to or unable to metabolize sulfurs and foods and garlic and onion.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I always say that if you put me into the woods and I was allowed to bring one thing with me, the only thing I would bring with me is my 5-methylfolate, which is basically what I take to help process sulfur. But it took me about 3 years of really working hard at it to be able to metabolize sulfur foods again.
What's the name of that product? 5-methyl sulfate?
5-methylfolate. And it's basically, but you can't just run out and grab 5-methylfolate. You have to find out, like, are your labs expressing that you're having troubles with sulfur foods, and are you born, with the CBS genetic mutation, or do you have BHMT, and how is that relating to COMT, and do you have MTRR, and it's all about how they interact.
Right.
And how they interact in your personal blueprint is how you should supplement for your body to have optimal health. Right.
Yeah, that's kind of where we are.
5-methylfolate is basically the bioabsorbable form of folic acid. So in my body, if I took folic acid, I am not able to metabolize it at all with the genetics that I have.
Gosh, you have learned so much about your health and how your body works and your genes, and from 4 years, that's pretty awesome.
Well, I'm a studier,
yeah.
And it's so empowering to me and all the clients that I work with. Our goal with Dr. Nasha and myself is to teach you how to be your own best doctor. And, once you know what to look for, once you know what your ideals are and what causes what, then it's fun. It's like a puzzle. It's like the best expedition ever.
Yeah, finding out how your body works and what doesn't work and constantly testing.
Yeah,
it's cool.
it's cool.
Yeah. Wow. What a journey. What a journey. So now you are keeping on track, obviously, with everything that you're doing. You're helping people. You're not doing as many of those extreme sports. You're working on your farm. What else are you doing to prevent the cancer from coming back?
Oh, what am I not doing?
Yeah.
I really have, rolled back my type A personality because stress is one of the hardest things for me to control in my labs. I started meditation about a year ago, and I dropped my cortisol in half in just 4 weeks.
How long were you meditating?
Just from meditation. It was amazing.
But how long each day are you meditating?
So I started off at about an hour once a week, and then I saw it in my labs. I saw the results so quickly that I try to do probably, on the worst day, 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening.
Uh-huh.
And then I go to 2 classes once a week to just, keep me on track.
Wow.
And if I'm able to take a nap in the middle of the day, I'll meditate in the hammock as well.
So you saw your cortisol drop by how much?
Half.
No way.
Yeah, it went from 22 to 11.
Oh my goodness, that is unbelievable.
And, I'm monitoring everything, with a journal, and so I can figure out if something's off, was it because of stress or sleep or something I ate or something I did. That's the cool thing, is figuring out what's causing what.
So meditation's been huge. It's such a challenging thing for people, isn't it? I mean, it's so hard to get into.
It was the hardest thing for me to implement. I was so stubborn. I don't need meditation. I quit my job. I'm focusing on my health. I'm being really good. I'm sleeping lots.
Yeah.
Taking all my supplements. I'm going to EFT, and I'm walking the dog. Everything's going to be perfect. And then, whoa. Cortisol, hello.
Wow, cut it in half. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a game changer, and the cortisol was really affecting my blood sugar. So.
Mm. Wow, so what other things besides perhaps meditation and keeping on track of your diet are you focusing on?
I continue to work on my diet every day. Right now, I'm about to go in for my next set of labs, and so now I've changed the type of fats that I'm eating for 2 months based on the DNA information that I got that's new.
That's right, yeah.
And so I'm waiting to see how that affects my liver and my kidneys and my triglycerides.
Uh-huh.
So that's the big excitement that's coming on right now. I'm continually monitoring blood sugar, the stress hormones, the vitamin D3. I'd say the hardest part right now is I'm working to repair the hormone damage from that one gluten exposure in February.
Mm-hmm.
So, it took my thyroid all the way back to square one. So I'm hoping that I'll see some thyroid improvement this month.
Okay, yeah.
And I got an ear infection from surfing 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And that has been affecting my white blood cells. So I have, I'm not going to take antibiotics, but I've been trying to just build up my immune system. So I'm hoping to see some real improvements in my platelets coming down and my white blood cells going up.
Yeah, there's a lot to work on, isn't there? I mean, it's...
Oh, gosh, it's a full-time job. And I tell anybody who's I was adamant about loving my work, and I'll never forget, it was about a year into my diagnosis, and I said, but Naisha, I love my job. And she said, well, it doesn't mean it's not killing you. Wise words.
Yeah, not what you wanted to hear.
At the time, no. But
Right.
Now that I sold that business, and now that I'm health coaching, and now I see the results in my labs. I'm happier. I'm healthier. There's always a reason for those things, and you just have to look. Everybody has to look at their own labs and their own drivers of inflammation and figure out what are the key things for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To to work on because everybody's different.
Yeah, it really is an endeavor worth pursuing, your own health, your life, and what you're here for, and your mission, and all that good stuff. I mean, it's so many people are just, they don't want to get into it all because it's so much easier just to take the doctor's advice and take the chemotherapy and all the rest of it. But, it really is, you become a different person. It's like the ultimate personal development tool,
It is. And I think, for some people it's too scary to make those changes. And, Dr. Nasha works with a lot of people that, want to do chemo or want to do radiation. Like, everybody has to do what's best for them.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have a plan that you, the patient, believe in. And so because the mind is such a big driver, the whole gut-brain connection of, taking care of your gut and taking care of your brain, those things are so, so important with cancer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so important. Gosh, what a story. Gosh, thanks, Alison, for being on the show and sharing everything that you've shared, and I think our audience is going to love it. Thank you.
Well, I hope it's not too much information. I tend to be a little bit of a talker.
No, sometimes we go for a couple hours, so this is great. So the best place to find you would be AlisonGannett.com?
Yep, AlisonGannett.com.
Gannett.com, okay.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll put a link to that on the page, and maybe we should reach out to Dr. Winters.
Yeah, you should. It's optimalterrainconsulting.com is her website, and you can contact her through that. And then the Metabolic Approach to Cancer is her lovely book on Amazon. Hate to promote that horrible company, but that's where it is.
Yeah.
And, it's now that I've been invited to speak about cancer around the world, what I've really realized is a lot of people are focusing on, like, a treatment of cancer, like it's ketogenic diet, or maybe it's two things, like ketogenic diet with hyperbaric oxygen or something.
Mm-hmm.
But what she's focusing in is every stone, no stone unturned for the reasons that you got cancer. Because, let's say you got all of the 20 stones, but you missed your thyroid. Well, that might be enough to do you in.
Mm-hmm. You got to have it all. So where's she?
You got to have it all, and that's why it's continuous work in process. But it's a lovely process, and I would wish myself to have terminal malignant brain cancer all over again because it's been the most amazing gift that I could have ever gotten.
Wow. Those are powerful words. Well, thank you, Alison. Hang on the line there. I'm just going to close out the show. And wow, what a powerful episode. If you guys enjoyed that, please consider sharing it with your friends. This will be we'll put links to this episode if you're out and about right now at extremehealthradio.com/534. So we'll put links to her website, to the book from Dr. Winters, as well as all the different websites for blood testing and all that good stuff. We'll put that at extremehealthradio.com/534. Thank you guys for joining us, for being a part of this. If you found this to be helpful in any way, please share it with your friends. I know Alison and myself, we would appreciate that, and it would help to spread the show, but it would also help open up options for your friends too, and that's the most important thing. So we appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
My name is Lee and I'm 41. I've been using One World Wave for 2.5 years now. I suffered a bulged L4 and L5 disc from a car accident 3 years ago, and since that time I've been unable to walk long distances, do any minor lifting, or just normal activities with my children without having severe back pain. Since I've started using One World Way, I've been able to walk more, engage in activities with my children, and have less lower back pain. One World Way has helped me regain back my strength, confidence, and have a healthier life. I've noticed a weight loss of about 20 pounds, my A1C dropped 2 points, and I have more energy now. One World Way has helped me regain back my life.
10% of the protein content of every cell is supposed to be glutathione, and when it lacks glutathione, the cell rapidly dies. One World Way is non-denatured, frequency-encoded whey protein. We believe our frequency encoding epigenetically awakens your cells to produce more energy and protein. Click on the One World Way banner ad right here at extremehealthradio.com. That's extremehealthradio.com.
I have to say, I have been absolutely loving this product by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar called Good Morning, Good Evening, Qigong. If you want to listen to the interview we did with Tristan, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/127. And Qigong is a great way to de-stress the body. And as you know, there's a huge component to disease caused by stress. And stress is a huge factor in how we live our lives and the amount of energy we have and the amount of vitality we have. And so, Dr. Shade, what do you think about Qigong?
People come to me and they're really sick and they got this blown out neurological system and all this toxicity. And I tell them, you need to do Qigong, Tai Chi. You need to do these things that settle down and restore your neurology, because it puts together all the parts. It puts you back into that state where you can start to detoxify. And so I highly, highly recommend all that.
And what about you, Kit Campbell? What do you think about Qigong? Do you like it as well?
Qigong is amazing. And the reason that I believe it to be amazing is everything here is energy. That is a scientific fact, if there ever is one. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually drawing energy into your body. Your intention, whatever your intention is behind any action, will determine the level of energy, type of energy that you absorb into your body. So your intention behind is very important, just like thought. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually bringing energy in and you're bringing out the stuff that might be a bit stale. With Tai Chi, it's totally different. The energy runs underneath the skin because it's more of a martial. This is the Chinese understanding, by the way. It's more of a martial art. So Qigong is very, very good for bringing that energy into the body, and just fantastic.
If you're interested in picking up this Qigong course by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar, go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. That's QIGONG. And you can learn more about it. There's a great video on that page, and you can learn more about it on that page. And I highly, highly recommend this product. I love it myself, so go ahead and check that out. extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. Wow, that was an interesting conversation, wasn't it, with Alison Gannett? Yeah, I found out about her from watching that video that was on Lecanto's website, and I think what happened was I saw something about Lecanto maybe on Facebook or something, but I saw them and they had some sort of like sugar-free maple syrup or something, and I thought, how does that work, right? Sugar-free maple syrup, and then I went over to their website and I found her story, and I don't know, amazing lady, and fascinating what she's doing. How crazy is it that she gets those 30 to 50 blood tests per day or per month and gets those tracked? Isn't that crazy? Wow. Just nuts. And it's amazing what someone has to do in order to stay on top of their cancer. But I tell you what, it's super, super important to be on top of your health. And, like I mentioned during the show, what gets measured is what gets managed, right? So if you're not measuring something, it's really challenging for people to even know what's going on. Because like we talked about, a lot of this inflammation, a lot of this stuff that's happening inside the body, you can't feel it. It just doesn't feel, really like anything. And I thought it was really fascinating too, how she talked about the gluten, the one bite of, I forget what she ate that had gluten in it, and then that messed her blood tests up for 3 months. I mean, how bizarre is that, right? Oh my goodness. That is just, that's really amazing. And it's also interesting too, what she said about meditation. And, meditation is so powerful, but it's fascinating too to think that maybe there's some sort of residual time frame that happens when we take upon ourselves the act of doing and putting into our daily lifestyles these habits, right? So maybe we do some meditation, but maybe it doesn't show up in our blood chemistry or in any test that we can test our systems with for a couple months, which I found that was really interesting as well. How is it that someone could meditate and not have it show up? But like she said, it lowered her cortisol by 50%, which is nuts, right? So, we can all do these things that are really simple and really easy. I mean, these blood tests take obviously some, cost some money for people, but meditation's free. So why not just do the things that we know we should be doing anyway? And I would encourage all of you guys, all of us should be meditating. It's been something that's been on and off in my life. I haven't meditated in quite some time, and it's been on my mind to do because I really do find it helps me tremendously in my life when I do it. And it's one of those things where it's fascinating because I'm just like her, and I'll sit there and, there's all these kind of apps to meditate and all these things that you can do. And, I just say, I just do it, the hard way. I just meditate and just sit there and focus on my breath. And I think that's the best way myself. Just force yourself to do it, and just really get into it and just sit there and breathe and clear your mind. And I found it interesting that she got such benefit from doing that, just from only meditating at the least 5 minutes twice a day, which I think that's something that we could all do. And I'm going to make it, part of my life. I'm going to start back up. I kind of go off and on. There's so many different, practices that I do every day. And sometimes, things drop off and then I start doing them again. And, just recently I started doing my zapper. It's just sitting right here in front of me. And sometimes I don't know what it is, it's like, why do we just forget, sometimes there's just so many things that we do in a day, right? Like for me, part of my daily routine is, I try to do the sauna every single day. I do the rebounder every single day for 30 minutes. Both of those are available in our store if you're interested. And, I work out, 3 times a week. And, that takes up quite a bit of time. And I do red light therapy. I do skin brushing. I do the rapid release. I do the PEMF mat. There's all these different things, the rice machine. And, it's like, man, it's a full-time job, really just taking care of yourself. So sometimes these little practices get pushed to the side, but they're always the most beneficial ones, it seems like, isn't it? Like the most beneficial thing that you could be doing is always the first thing that gets, kicked to the curb when you're trying to take care of yourself. You do all these other things first, So, meditation, it might be, in terms of bang for your buck, it might be the biggest bang for your buck that you could ever get, right? Because A, it's free, right? But B, it might even provide better benefit to the human body than anything else that we're doing. Who knows, right? All I know is everyone that I talk to, reaps tremendous benefit from it. And of the people that I've talked to that have, done scientific studies and looked at blood before and after and looked at cortisol levels and stress levels and done all this, work and studying what meditation does to the body, all of these people, it's unanimous in terms of, what they say about it. It affects the human body in a tremendous way. And it was really cool to hear her say that it lowered cortisol by, 50%. Although, she's probably doing a lot of things. Like she did say that she's doing a lot of different things to help her. So we don't know it was the meditation, but maybe that was the only thing she did different from one month to the next. So maybe it was meditation. And it would make sense that it is, right? I mean, it's like, you find a guy at a crime scene with a gun and, it would make sense to say that it's him. So in the same way, it's like, if that's the only thing that she did that was different, it very well could have been meditation. But really cool stuff. Really, really cool stuff. I'm really, really glad that I talked to her. She said 50 to 60 different blood tests. It's interesting. I said during the show or at the beginning, we have that in our family now. Like I said at the beginning, Kate's, let's make sure that I get this right. Kate's grandfather's second wife. Kate's grandfather and her second wife lived next door to us. And like I said, she was diagnosed with I'm not sure the exact kind of cancer. I'm not sure what the label of it was, but, like I said in my newsletter, if you guys follow, our newsletter, I was mentioning that, none of anyone has ever asked, our advice or opinion or anything, and they know what we do, but I don't think they know to the extent. I think they think that we talk about, how to be healthy and how to eat, the food pyramid way or something. They don't listen to our shows, but it's sad because, there's so much that we could share with people. But, one of the things that we are trying to do, it's challenging. And a lot of you guys responded, to that email that I wrote a while back that you're in the same boat. You have all these people in your life that need help and they may or may not know what you do, but they don't ask, right? So it's like one of those things where, well, if they don't ask, it's up to them to ask for the help. And, they know, at least her parents know what we do generally. But since no one asks, it's really challenging. I'm not going to really put forth the things that I think about and know, you know, I'm not going to force that on anybody. You know, it's up to everybody's journey is their own, you know, and so, it's challenging. It's an interesting dance to walk on. And I'm sure you guys, if you're listening to this, have the same issue. It's like, you know, how much do you tell people and how much do you sit back and just let people live their own life? It's an interesting dichotomy, an interesting balance walking the line with our friends and family because we care about them, but at the same time, we don't want to see them suffer. But at the same time, we're not going to shove things down their throat. So everyone has their own unique spiritual journey. And so, yeah, interesting, right? So I hope that was interesting to you, and I hope that if you know of anybody with a brain cancer issue, pass the show on to them. Maybe they'll get something out of it. And if you guys would like to learn a little bit more about some cancer options, obviously I'm not a professional, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but I did do a whole show on some different unique research I've done on cancer. And if you go to extremehealthradio.com/126, you'll find that there are lots of different links to healing centers and different modalities and things I come across. Anytime I come across something, I add it to that. So you might want to check that out, episode 126, if you're interested in that. Also, just to remind you, we've got Sherry Edwards coming up. We're going to be talking about breaking the sound barriers of disease. So that will be interesting. She talks a lot about vocal print and how the frequencies and vibrations that we emit from our sound affects our health. And so, she can run that through her software and tell you all kinds of interesting things about your health. So if that's something you want to look into, that will be coming up soon, Sherry Edwards. And then we have Dr. Cass Ingram, and he'll be talking about the Tumor Cure. So that'll be interesting, diving into turmeric and finding out all the medicinal and healing properties of that unique and ancient spice. Been loving turmeric lately, so that'll be cool. And then we got Bryant Myers. We'll be talking about PEMF. PEMF is a pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, and so they've been able to use pulsed magnetism in different devices and how that affects our health and our organs and all this. It's really fascinating work that he's doing, Bryant Myers. He's been on the show a couple times, so we'll gladly talk with him again. So those are some cool shows coming up. So if you want to subscribe to our show, you can get updates. We send emails out every Monday and Friday in the morning around 6 a.m. Pacific time. So that's generally when they go out. And so if you guys want to keep up to date with all the shows, and if there's, ever interesting shows that sound like something you want to hear, you'll get notified about those every Monday and Friday. So that will be cool if you want to sign up to our newsletter and get updates on that. Also, I want to let you guys know too, we are launching very, very soon a members website, and it's going to be an exclusive online community that's going to be developed. It's actually, we're working on it right now. We've got right now, I think, over about 24 hours of content in there. And what we're going to be doing, it's going to be really cool. We are going to be diving deep into a lot of the practical how-to information that we talk about on this website. So we talk a lot about theory, people's stories like this show, but not a lot about, like, for example, her blood tests. Like, okay, what were the blood tests? How does she go about doing it? All the how-to information, the practical stuff that you can put it and apply to your life, and different life hacks and things like that. So we're going to be diving deep into that. We're going to be doing courses on every organ of the body. So if you have an issue with your liver, your lungs, your colon, we're going to tackle all the organ systems of the body in depth, so you'll get these expert courses, and we're going to be doing those with some of the cutting edge doctors that we have on the show. And then we're also going to be doing courses on health challenges that people have, like digestive issues or Hashimoto's, or all these kinds of different issues that are the main issues, cancer, heart disease. We're going to be tackling those as well in courses. And then there's going to be an online community in there too, where you guys can get together and share some of the different things that's going to be happening on your health journey, so we can all support each other in overcoming. And maybe eventually I'd like to get it to sometime we can meet up, once a year we can all meet up somewhere around the world and have a little retreat. That would be really fun, and get to meet everybody, because there's such fascinating people. We get emails from such interesting people, and we oftentimes think, this person should know this person. They would be such good friends, and they live in the same area and all this stuff. So this is going to be a great way for us to be able to connect everyone together, to get access to high-level practical information from these cutting-edge guests that we have, and support each other with an online forum. And so if that sounds like it's something that you would like to do in order to take your health to the next level, or if you have health challenges going on right now in your body that you want, access to. Also, something else we're going to be doing too is we're going to be doing Q&As once a month with doctors. So we're going to be covering all of your health questions. We'll be answering to different doctors, and we'll be adding those in a alphabetical format. So you can go to, H for Hashimoto, C for cancer, and that kind of thing, and listen to 2-3 minute clips. So there'll be in-depth, high-level courses as well as short clips answering your health questions. It'll be all categorized. So, one other thing too is we are also considering doing 3 or 4 times a year with this change of every season, doing a cleanse that will be overseen by a health practitioner. So that will be really cool. So we'll be able to go through as a group, doing a group cleanse and support each other. So that'll be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to a really fun community. If that's something you want to get into, we're going to be launching it September of 2017. And, you're going to want to get in on this early because, it's a monthly charge. So it's not going to be for everyone. It's only going to be for people that want to take their health to the next level and really become superheroes in their own life, right? And overcome any health challenges so that they can become a superhero. And so we're going to be offering a really massive discount when we first open the doors, and then it's going to be rolled out in 3 different phases, and then within each phase the price is going to go up. So if you want the best option for pricing, then get on our newsletter list for that particular academy. So what I'll do is I'll put a link to the academy at extremehealthradio.com. Let me make sure I get this correct, /534. That's the podcast page for this particular show. And so I will put a link to that on this page as well. So if you want to sign up and get access to the cheapest pricing forever, that will be awesome, and you'll be very happy because the prices will be going up as we get more people in, and it becomes more popular thing. So we're really excited about this. So I hope you guys like that show, episode 534. Let us know what you think. If you want, you can tweet or tag us on Instagram, and that will be fun to hear what you guys think. So let us know what you think about the show, or if you want to leave a comment, you can do that as well. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below and give us a thumbs up. If you're listening on iTunes, consider rating, reviewing, and subscribing on iTunes. That would help us, and it would help you guys too, because we're putting out shows all the time. Thanks, guys, for your support and purchasing from our products in our store. We really appreciate that. Thank you for purchasing on Amazon through our link that's on the right-hand side of our website. Thank you for that. And also thank you to all of you awesome people who are supporting us on Patreon every month, sending a $1 or $2 every month, and on PayPal. You guys are awesome, and there's links for that on the website as well. So thank you guys. You guys are really awesome. Thank you. We really appreciate it. That wraps it up for this episode. We love you guys, and let us know if we can ever help, and we'll see you guys on the next show.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action